Okay, so in this video I'm going to be repairing third-party Joycons. These were given to me by another repair shop just to see what I thought of them, because these are a customer return. I don't think the customer really got any use out of them. They tried the first time and there was an issue with the right controller. As you can see, there's lights on them as well that I don't think you can turn them off. I've been trying for a while now, but I can't figure out. I think they're just permanently on when these things are attached to the switch. So we'll just test both controllers now and see exactly what the problem is. So I'm testing the left one now. And the left stick is working fine. The right one is not registering at all. So there's definitely an issue with this right stick anyway. Now we'll just test the button input. Nope, the battery's dead in that, but I can see the lights. I can see the lights in that wee thing, so I'd say that's working. And does it take a picture? Screen capture button. Yep. So we'll test the buttons in this right one. So the button on the stick isn't working either, so there's definitely an issue with the stick. Not just that it's drifting, but there's an issue with it's connected to the board. And the wee shoulder buttons on the inside are working. And the home button works. So we'll get this open now and we'll see exactly what's wrong with it. These just use ordinary Phillips screws. So I'll get a Phillips 0 here. So unlike the standard or the official Nintendo Joy-Cons that have two ribbon cables here, one connecting these lights and the buttons and another connecting the slider, this one has everything just built into one ribbon cable. Yeah, you see the issue there with the stick already. This has actually been ripped off the board, the connector here. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. This connector here has completely been taken off the board. You see all the rip pads there. So that's why it's not registering the movement or the button press. So let me just disassemble this a bit more. Now does this trigger need to come off first, I wonder? I think it does. I think this needs to come off. Yeah, there's screws underneath there as well. Now the board itself can come out. I'm going to take a look at this connector as well to see is there anything to solder onto or has it been damaged beyond repair. It's still got its pins on it. But you see those little light brown bits are actually the pads taken off the board. They shouldn't be on this, they should be on here. So the connector's still good. You know what, yeah, I think we can do it. I'll just get my wee microscope here to have a wee look. So I'll try and move, there's one pad still here, I'll move that back into place. And there's another pad still here, still attached, it's just been bent back, so I'll try and reuse that as well without breaking it. Yeah, and that last pad actually looks to be fine as well. So it's just two traces we need to repair here, 2 pads. So that's not actually too bad. I'm going to try and apply solder to these without tearing what's left of them. I'll use some leaded solder so I'll use a lower heat on them. I'll set my soldering iron to about 350. I'll try 350. Hopefully you see better now what's happening. So I'm going to try and reuse, let me see, I'm going to try and reuse this pad, and this pad. So we only have 2 here to repair. So I'm going to try and apply solder to these without destroying them completely. Well, yeah, one of them's got, oh no, still there, sorry, still there. Now I'm just going to wick away the solder from the 2 anchor points because I want my connector to sit flat. I'm just going to increase the temperature for this actually. Alright, I think that'll do. So just use a little bit of IPA, isopropyl alcohol, to clean that now. And the pads are gone. Oh god, I just destroyed them there. It's alright though, it'll be fine. We still have 2 on the outside, so it's just 1 pad I took off there by accident, but it's fine. The track for that one's actually quite big, so it'll not be too hard to repair that. Okay, so we get our connector now and see what everything looks like. Well, first of all, what I'll do is I'll use my soldering iron to remove these old pads, because we can't solder anything onto that now with them on it. Okay. So yeah, just touch them a wee bit and take it off. You don't need to hold it on too long because you don't want to damage anything. Just the point of it, try and remove that. There we go. So that's the 5 pins there, ready to be reattached to the board. Now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to reattach the anchor points, because that'll hold everything in place, and then I can do the intricate work of repairing those traces. So I'm going to attach it here and here. Just going to put a bit of solder or flux on there, sorry. Okay, that's one side attached. Now go to the other side and do the same. Put a little bit more solder on the end of my tip here just to make sure it's definitely soldered in place and sturdy. And go over the other side again. Now, I think that's attached. I'll just give it a wee nudge with my tweezers and see is there any side lifting up here. No, it looks to be good there now. So now we can focus on repairing these traces. Now I can still use the bit of pad left there and should be, I'm not sure if that pad's usable now, it looks like it might have broken away. But I need to reattach this pin to here, this pin to this little via, and this pin to, I think that's the side of this capacitor. First of all, I'm going to clean away that flux, or most of it at least, and then I'm going to expose some of these copper traces to give me something to solder to. So I'm going to do this with my tweezers, just expose a bit of copper here. You don't need to be too rough with these boards because these third-party controllers, there's usually quite, the motherboards are quite, circuit boards are quite flimsy, so you don't need to use much pressure. Otherwise you'll end up tearing away more of the copper. Now I'm just going to turn the light down this microscope so I can see that. See if I can tell where that trace is going exactly. Let me just dry that bit of alcohol there. Let me just dry this bit of alcohol here and see if I can help see exactly where that trace is going. I think that trace is going just to the end of that capacitor, seems to be. So I'll run a wire from here just to the end of that capacitor. There's no need to attach to this trace when it's just going from there to there anyway. And if need be, I'll do the same from here to here. If I can get a solder blob to bridge those two, I'll do that. If not, I'll just solder to this track too. So yeah, I'll do that now. So I'm just going to be using 0.1mm enamel wire to run these traces. First thing I do is I scrape off some of the enamel on the end. This will help the solder stick to it better. What I'll do first actually is I'll reattach this particular pin to here. I'll see if I can reuse these pads first, and then whatever I can reuse, I'll do that first, and then I'll run the traces. Because if I start trying to go over that, then after the traces are run, I'll end up taking off one of the wires I put on. Oh, excuse me, one of the wires I put on. So I'll do this first. So that's that one reattached. Now for this one on the end, I'll put a wee tiny bit more flux on that, because this one will need all the help it can get. Now I'm going to need this bit of solder to join these two, to join this gap. I don't know if that'll work, but I'll try. I'll try a little bit more solder on that. There we go. Let's bridge that there now. And we'll just give that a wee nudge and test it. Yeah. This one. Oh yeah, sorry, that bit of pad's moving. That's why that one has a bit of movement in it, because the pad is actually moving a little bit. So yeah, they're both solid now. So I'll work on these 3 traces in the middle. So back to the enamel wire. First thing I'm going to do is get a little bit of solder on the end of this enamel wire. Rather than trying to put solder on the wire and the pin together, I'll just put the solder on the wire so I can just melt it onto the pin. The way I do that is I melt the solder on this bit of off the roll of it. I melt the solder a bit, and I dip the enamel wire in while it's still solid, and while it's cooling down I pull it out, and that usually leaves a lump of solder just on the end of the wire, because if you pull it out too soon, the solder naturally sticks to the rest of the roll. But if you pull it out while it's cooling a bit, you'll usually get a lump on the end of the enamel. Let me just try and show you here. Like, see there? That's what I'm looking for. So when I melt this here, then it'll attach to that pin. Okay, so more flux for this. When it comes to little small parts, I guess you're trying to solder kind of micro, when you're trying to kind of like micro solder stuff and everything, flux is very necessary to help everything flow better, because you can't transfer a wild lot of heat due to the small tip on the soldering iron, and due to the size of everything and the thermal conductivity of all the small parts. Flux will really help you here. Now, where am I at? Okay, here we go. Okay, so we're attached to the pin now. And now attached to the trace. Actually, what I might do is I'm going to test to see if this track's actually running to the end of these 2 capacitors. If it is, I'll just attach it to here and here, because if I try and apply more heat here, it'll actually melt the solder in the pin. So let me get my multimeter here. So I'm testing this against here and here. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to wire it to the end of this. Okay, I'll do that instead. That's even better. So I'm just going to add the tiniest bit of solder to the end of one of these capacitors. There we go. Now I'm going to try and protect the enamel as it runs along the side of the capacitor, because I don't want to short out that capacitor. So I want to keep this bit enameled and just try to get this end here attached. I think I might need 2 pairs of tweezers for this. and just bend it around. There we go, perfect. Now you can still see the enamel still on this side, but the heat of the solder should remove that if I hold it on. Okay, so it looks to be attached. I just need to remove the rest of this excess enamel now, break it off. So I'm just holding the wire down with a knife and just shaking it back and forth with the tweezers just to weaken it and eventually break it. There we go. So you don't need to be rough with it, it'll eventually break on its own. If you don't want to pull too hard and pull this wire back off again. So that's that. Yeah. That's that one solid. Now this third one here needs to go to this wee small via here. So we'll just do the whole thing over again. Get a bit of solder on the end of the enamel and we'll go from there. So that's that one attached. Let me just move that, straighten that wire out and see, is it gonna hold? Yeah, perfect. So I need to heat pretty close to where that pin is. So what I'm gonna need to do is I'm gonna need to hold the wire here and heat this side, because if I just heat here, this solder will liquefy on the pin and the wire will just fall off. That's why if you can run a wire a bit longer, it's handier, because the heat takes too long to get to this part. So you can melt this solder without this solder melting as well, because the heat will travel through the wire. So I'm going to hold what we already soldered in place, and yeah, bollocks. See, it's just done it already. Let me see if I can maybe. Okay, so this wire's actually attached to the fourth one now, and I don't want it there, I want it in the third one. And I see here a bit of solder's come off the last pin, it's fine, we'll leave that to the end. This is so tricky. Let me try and get, here we go. I might need to expose a bit more of that. I'll expose a bit more of that copper there actually. Just a wee bit, we don't need much. Okay, so I'll try this again. I'm going to try, and if I can't solder both points at the same time, I'll just try and solder the one on the trace first, because it'll be easier to hold in place then whenever I'm working on the pin. Okay, so that's the trace solder too. I'm going to need to use my right hand for this. Now I'm going to need to hold this wire in place, hold it down, and solder that pin. Hopefully this will work now. I'm going to get a wee dab of solder here. Hold on. Now, I'll see is that actually attached to the pin. I can't tell if it's just sitting underneath it or if it's actually attached. It's not attached anyway, I don't think. It's not moving with the... It's not moving with the pin. Oh, this whole connector's moving there again. I'll try that one more time. I'll use a bit more flux. This thing's covered in flux. We'll need to clean out this connector afterwards. I accidentally fixed the pin on the end there. Let me see if I can try and pull this pin down to attach that wire. Oop, no, we don't want that. We definitely do not want that. Get off there, for fuck's sake. Did this attach? I think that attached, but we'll just do a continuity test there just to make sure. Okay, so checking from here to... Yeah, there's continuity on that. So that's attached now. And just one more, or two more left actually, sorry. So these two in the end. Alright, first of all, I need to try and unbridge that. Oh, I need to actually remove the excess enamel on this pin here. Let me see if I can get this off first. Come on. Let me see if I can remove it with the tweezers if I melt this. That does not want to come off. I'll raise the temperature of my soldering iron a little bit. The solder will want to stick to whatever's hottest, so I'll just heat my iron a bit. While it's heating up, I'll just get rid of this excess enamel wire here. Alright, there we go. Okay, I'm going to use a bit of solder wick here because that is not coming off. Let me try and get this without touching anything else. Alright, that took most of it off. Let me see if I can get the rest off with just the iron. There we go, that's the bridge going there now. So I'll solder this fourth pin and then I'll worry about that last one at the end because it should be the easiest to do. So all I'm doing is soldering just from here. Let me just adjust that so you can see it a bit better. All I'm doing is going to run a wire from this fourth pin to the end of this capacitor. So I'll put a little bit of solder on the end of that capacitor first. Just a wee bit, don't need much. Let me clean my soldering tip first. There we go, that'll be perfect. And then we'll come in with the wire again. And there's a bit of solder in this pin already from the bridge we just got rid of. Alright, so that's that wire attached to the pin. Now we just need to attach it to the end of this capacitor. I'll just try and do that by putting I accidentally moved that capacitor, but it's fine. It's still attached to the right tab on the board. It's just moved a little bit, but that's totally fine there. So that's that pin attached to the end of this capacitor. So we'll just break this off now, and then we'll do the last pin. There we go. Now that's a big solder blob, but it does the job, so it's fine, we'll just not worry about it. And the rest of these are now attached. So we'll clean this thing, let it cool down. Actually, first of all, what I might do is I might go over these anchor points again because I'm afraid they might have moved while I was doing everything with the pins. There we go, it's attached there now, but it looked like it detached before. And the one on the other side, let me just see if I can. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's been held on by much there, to be honest. Throw a bit more flux on there. Oops, it is it. Alright, so we'll clean all this up now. I don't want to use a cotton bud to rub anything, so I'll just soak it in some isopropyl alcohol. And I'll try and move this wee latch to make sure it still works. Oops, it is. Why is that not? Oh, it does still work, it's fine. So the wee latch still works. That's good. I'll just very gently go over it with a cotton bud without removing anything. I really don't want to lift any of these wires now, so I'll just dab it. I'll just dab it with a cotton bud. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some solder mask on this to hold those wires in place. Okay, now I'm just gonna dry that with the hot air gun. I'm going to apply solder mask all over this area just to make sure nothing there moves. Right, so we have our solder mask here. I don't use a syringe in this here. What I do is I just put it on the end of a screwdriver. So I get it's a small flat end screwdriver and just put some out on it. Like you can see now under the microscope, there's a bit on that. You don't need much. Let me just wipe that off. Hold on. Now you don't need much of this, just enough to coat everything. You can see when you put a few drops on, it kind of spreads out itself. Okay, so what we do next is we put a UV light on that for a few minutes to cure it. I'll just leave it sitting on top of it like that. I'll just lean it on something. Oh, I'll maybe lean it on this box. So let that sit for a few minutes now, and when it's done, that solder mask will be hardened. Okay, so that should be fully cured there now. So we'll just go ahead and put this thing back together and test it. And we'll just try and reconnect this now. Make sure it fits in and everything. Make sure we didn't damage that connector or melt it in some way where the... Oh no. So the little flap has come off us. It just detached itself there when I was trying to slide in the ribbon cable here. Let me see if I can reattach this. I think it needs to be standing up. Let me get a better look at this. I think that might be it reattached there now. Or is it going to come off again? Maybe I have it on back to front. I bet I do. Hold on, let me turn that around. Okay, let me try it this way. There we go, that seems to be it there. If this works, what I'll do is I'll actually put like a bit of hot glue or maybe tape or something on that just to keep that down. But I'll test it first now and see if the stick is recognized now. Alright, we'll test this thing now. It's still recognized at least. Oh, the stick is working now. Let me just test it and calibrate it, see is it still working 100%. Yeah, it's working 100%. And you can hear the click. Yeah, that's it working now, 100%. So the traces work properly. Let me see now about the inside. Still working. Yeah, the two SL, SR buttons are still working. That's a good job there. Let me just see now what way we'll secure this connector. I'm sure it's fine anyway, but if it took a bump, I would just be afraid that it might lift. So I'll just put a small bit of Captain tape on that. I'll just put that over it there and press it down. Oh, if I can get the stick, that'll be good. Okay, so it's not sticking very well there. What will be? I think the flux residue here is stopping the Captain tape from sticking very well, so I'll give it another wee clean and see if I can get it to stick then. Just to dry up that alcohol. Now try that again. Sticking better this time. Not perfect though. What I might do is I might get like a thermal pad or something and put it on top of it just to keep the pressure on it, to stop that flap from lifting or moving at all. I don't think it will. It seems to be down pretty good, but better to be safe than sorry. So let me just get a wee thermal pad here. So I have wee thermal pads here. I'll use one of these, just a wee square, just like that. I just put that down there on top of it. And now this battery should be able to hold that down in place. So there's no chance of that connector moving or anything. Although as I say, it shouldn't, but this will make 100% sure that nothing will go out of place. So I'll just close this back up now. Now we'll just give it another final test and make sure it's all 100%. One thing I like to make sure as well is that both Joy-Cons are charging. So unless they're really low, they won't charge automatically off the console. The only way to check that is to plug the console in. And if the console is charging, then both Joy-Cons will charge too, unless they're 100%. So you can see, yeah, they're both charging. And then and now I will check the joysticks again. So I'll check the left one again. And that's 100%. And the right one. It is 100% as well. And the buttons now, make sure they're all working. And test the inside buttons. Yeah, working. The screen capture button. This button here is to do with the controller itself. It's a turbo button. I assume it's something to do with like rapid fire, but it's not going to be registered by the console itself. But all the other Nintendo Switch supported buttons do work. Check the inside buttons in this. Yep, 100%. And the last button to check is, you can see the joystick buttons work as well, and the last button to check is the home button. So that's that working 100% now. The trace repair was a success, and that controller is ready to be used now. So hopefully you learned something from that, or maybe you just enjoy watching it. But yeah, I hope to bring out more videos like this in the future. But that was a nice repair. That it was nice to see all that work leading to a fix. So I'm happy with that now, and I think I'll just end the video there. So thank you for watching, and hopefully see you in the next one.